Hello and welcome to the history of Stargate Universe. Today's episode we're going to be covering Camile Wray, and here we go. Camile Wray is a Tok'ra human resource officer with the International Oversight Advisory and with the primary IOA representative of the Icarus Base. She is a member of the team sent and later trapped aboard the ancient vessel Destiny. Her age and date of birth are yet to be disclosed. Her father was named Yaozu Ray, and her mother was unnamed. She could speak Mandarin and is a skilled sketch artist. 12 years before Destiny, she became involved with Sharon Walker and began a relationship with her. She is an experienced member of the International Oversight Advisory and became the representative on the Icarus Base, sometime after the discovery of the planet. She requested promotion 4 times but was always passed over by her superior, Dr. Carl Storm, who never gave her a proper reason why. Shortly before the evacuation of the Icarus Base, she was approached by Lieutenant Tamara Johannesson, who wished to leave the United States Air Force after her scholarship came through. However, instead of immediately supporting her decision to leave, she had suspicions. It was actually about a relationship she had and that she was hiding something to protect someone, though TJ says she wasn't. 2009. Sometime later, Icarus Base fell under attack from 3 Hatak vessels that were controlled by Lucian Alliance, and was evacuated. Ray was under the impression that she would be evacuating to Earth. However, Dr. Nicholas Rush changed the address to the 9th chevron, and was instead sent to Destiny. She was furious when she discovered this. On the Destiny, she challenged Rush's authority when he claimed that after contacting Earth with the long-range communication device, Lieutenant General Jack O'Neill put him in charge of the expedition. She was later going through the expedition's inventory and noticed Master Sergeant Ronald Greer, who was imprisoned at the Icarus Base for good reason. This led to a confrontation, which Sergeant Hunter Riley stopped. After Colonel Everett Young, who was injured during the evacuation, somewhat recovered, he told her to announce to the expedition about the life support issues, and to try to increase morale to the crew. After Lime was retrieved from the desert planet to repair the life support, she became the sole International Oversight Advisory representative of the vessel, and attended the meetings between Colonel Everett Young and the other crew members, concerning several human resource issues. Those included Dr. Nicholas Rush's behavior, the water supply, what to do with Senator Armstrong's body on the ancient shuttle, and Lieutenant Tamara Johannesson's status among the crew. After power failed and the ship ended up on a collision course with the star, she argues with Young about selecting the crew on the remaining shuttle to evacuate. She wanted Young to select every capable person rather than just 2 and give the others a chance on the lottery. After being threatened to have her name off the list, she stopped. Later, her name was one of the 15 selected in the lottery. She went to the shuttle to leave Destiny. When it turned out that the ship went to the star to recharge, she and the other 14 occupants of the shuttle returned relatively safely to Destiny. Sometime after replenishing the water supply, she reported back to Earth by using the long-range communication device, and was informed of a plan for the crew to return to their home. However, she had doubts about the plan, citing its danger. She was coerced by Dr. Carl Storm to make the plan happen. However, she still believed it was dangerous, and told Dr. Nicholas Rush to do something. As it turns out, he staged a potentially fatal malfunction to drive Colonel David Telford and the International Oversight Advisory scientists, Dr. Williams and Dr. McCormick, away. She later used the long-range communication device again for a personal visit to Earth. She visited Sharon Walker's home and spent the day with her until she had to return to Destiny. Before leaving, Ray visited her parents for a short while, even though they do not have clearance level to know of their daughter's whereabouts. After returning, she was delighted to learn of a new Icarus-type planet 1 year away, until she learned that Dr. Nicholas Rush lied. When Colonel Everett Young was suspected of the murder of Sergeant Spencer, Ray had a hearing to determine whether or not Young was guilty, since the evidence against Young was more or less circumstantial. At the time of the hearing, she pressed the witness into believing Young was in fact guilty. Before the expedition could vote as to whether or not he was guilty, Young resigned his command to Ray. The move became unpopular to the military personnel, particularly Master Sergeant Ronald Greer, who noticed he and a few others were placed off duty. After there was visual proof that Spencer committed suicide, Young swiftly retook command. Sometime after discovering an ancient spaceship on a gravel pit planet, Young confronted Dr. Nicholas Rush about framing him for the murder and marooned him on that planet. Ray would learn from Young that he fell victim to a rock slide. The following week, she grew suspicious of Colonel Everett Young's story, knowing the strain between Young and Dr. Nicholas Rush, and believed Young intentionally left Rush behind on the planet. When Young was about to file a report regarding the loss of Rush, Ray confronted him to tell him she was to conduct a follow-up meeting on Earth, voicing her suspicions. Before she could report to Earth, Young closed down the long-range communication device, after he was accidentally transferred to an alien ship. Ray confronted Young, believing that closing down the communication before she could file a report was convenient. Ray decided to conduct a meeting with some of the other scientists concerning the military leadership of the ship, and wanted something to be done about it. After Destiny survived an alien attack and Rush returned, the two were plotting to overthrow Young. She would form alliances with several civilian members to start a coup. Initially, their plan was to trap the military personnel in one section of the ship with no food or water. However, when Colonel Young and Lieutenant Matthew Scott were stranded on the ancient shuttle, as the docking clamps would not engage while Dr. Nicholas Rush was in the process of taking control of the ship's systems. After the narrow miss that Young and Scott would vaporize as Destiny took off to FTL, the civilians took control of everything but life support. Ray was determined that their demand of allowing the civilians to take control would fall through, since although the military controlled civilians, it is the civilians themselves that control the military. Ultimately, the military found a way to enter the civilian section and order everyone to their quarters after a second failed alien attempt to take over Destiny. Ray admitted to Young that in the end both sides needed to find a way to work together, since Young leaving Rush on the planet was a bad call. When Destiny stopped at a solar system that should not exist, members of the crew were given a chance to visit a hospitable planet. Camile decided to stay aboard Destiny during the few weeks that the ship would be in the system due to her mistrust of Dr. Nicholas Rush, though she would regret the decision later on. When several members of the crew decided to stay on the planet rather than continue on Destiny, she argued that they could not force people off the planet. Later, after Destiny was sabotaged, Ray volunteered to use the long-range communication device to switch with Dr. Amanda Perry, a quadriplegic scientist. During her extended time on Earth, she stayed with Sharon Walker. With the help of Mary, she would live as comfortably as she could. However, the strain did have an effect on her when Sharon did not return from the store for hours, and when Sharon returned, she had a seizure that required Mary's assistance. During the time she was on Earth, there were several instances when Destiny dropped in and out of FTL, which caused her and Perry to switch back and forth momentarily. Finally, Camile and Sharon were told that she may have to switch unexpectedly, and that they should say their goodbyes. Sometime later, while some of the other members of the crew would become subject to the hallucinations caused by the alien ticks, she would remain unaffected. This would not protect her, however, as Master Sergeant Ronald Greer would have the hallucination where she and Dr. Nicholas Rush were attempting a second coup. She would not realize the effects of the parasites until Greer would trap her and the hallucinating Rush in a room with him. Rush, thinking that she was a Nakai, stabbed her in the chest with a screwdriver. While she tried to reason with Greer, he was urged to kill her by visions of his father, but stopped when Rush hit him with a metal pipe. And Lieutenant Matthew Scott with his team opened the door. When the brainwashed Colonel David Telford was aboard Destiny, she informed him that there is something going on and she is being kept out of the loop. Their conversation was interrupted by Colonel Everett Young. Ray would not find out what was actually happening until Telford was being interrogated, and Young orders the air to be removed from his chamber that he is in. She attempts to stop Telford from being suffocated, but is unsuccessful. Later, during the invasion by the Lucine Alliance, Wray attempts to negotiate with Commander Kiva, but was prevented by Young, who wanted to set up an ambush. After the failure of Young's plan, Kiva only wanted to deal with her. She was able to set up a prisoner transfer, finding out why Eli Wallace and Chloe Armstrong were not captured by the Alliance. When Telford and Kiva shot each other, Danik, another Alliance member, ordered military personnel and civilian personnel separated. Wray was seen with the civilians. Later, she used a long-range communication device to switch bodies with Dr. Brightman in order to treat the wounded. Shortly after the invasion, she interviewed several of the captured Lucine Alliance members to determine if they could be trusted. During her interview with Ginn, she learned of the Alliance conscription methods as well as their belief that destiny could give godlike powers to whoever controlled it. She and Colonel David Telford developed a list of those who could prove valuable and reported to Homeworld Command without Colonel Everett Young's knowledge. Homeworld Command then ordered Young to keep the members on the list and leave the rest on the nearest planet. During her visit to Earth with Eli Wallace, Wray stayed with Sharon Walker, but noticed that there was something off with her. She had a quicker temper, was forgetting things, and was going through bottles of wine. Sharon admitting that she found it hard to keep seeing Wray in another person's body, and not seeing the face of the woman she fell in love with. Meanwhile, Eli was having problems trying to get his mother to not give up hope. When Eli contacted her for help, Wray used her influence and position to convince her supervisors to have Marion Wallace visit Destiny so that she could see that her son was alive and well, arguing that they owed Eli for his role in cracking the 9th chevron. After a conversation with Eli, she came up with the idea of introducing Sharon to Miss Wallace so that they could serve as sources of comfort for each other because of their similar situations. Camile would introduce Eli Wallace to Ginn in the hopes that the former Lucine Alliance member would help him in getting the ship operational. While Dr. Lisa Park was giving a report on getting a new home for the hydroponics lab, Camile became concerned over Colonel Everett Young's new orders to fix the weapons. Young brushes her off for trying to be the ship's therapist. After his second dream, Young goes to Wray and tells her about them. She notices that he is drunk and realizes that he ordered Park to restart work on the weapon system because of these dreams. Wray advises him to visit Chloe Armstrong because of her importance in the dreams as well as his lack of contact with her since he ordered her into quarantine. When the ship goes out of FTL, Wray is in the control room as Eli explains the battle simulation that he found. She realizes the connection between it and Young's dreams. She explains what had been happening to the others and theorizes that the ship is sending these messages to Young. She goes further, believing that the ship has dropped out because Young has given up. As Lieutenant Matthew Scott gives orders to defend the ship, Wray and Nicholas Rush tell him that he needs to take command, and explain that they cannot be in control because of their past experiences in the position. After the ship jumps, Camile, along with the rest of the crew, assumes that it is because Young is back from his depression, even though in reality, Rush has bypassed the simulation. 2010. When Senator Michaels and Dr. Andrew Corvell came to the ship, Wray offered to switch herself with Michaels, while volunteering Master Sergeant Ronald Greer to switch with Corvell, which Greer was not happy about. The two became trapped together when Homeworld Command came under attack from the Lucine Alliance. And after failing to find a way out, Wray decided that they and Airman Evans would attempt to disarm the Naquadria bomb themselves. Wray was horrified to learn that she had been exposed to fatal levels of radiation as a result for leading them to try to find the bomb rather than get out, and then was taken hostage by Evans. Realizing from a few clues that he was Lucine Alliance, Wray broke free and had Greer kill him. The two then made their way to the crashed ship and found the bomb, but Wray was unable to disarm it. An FTL jump allowed Vero to give her quick instructions, but he ran out of time to finish, and Wray was unable to finish the job. Wray apologized to Greer for their bad relationship and explained that their main difference was that she liked to talk while he liked to take action, and the two shared a laugh over the fact that Wray had nothing to say at a time when talking was all they could do. The two later confronted each other over the fate of their loved ones. The two later comforted each other over the fate of their loved ones on Earth once it was all over, as they didn't know their fate, and Sharon Walker lived in Washington, D.C., where the Naquadria bomb was. Finally, she entered a stasis pod for the trip to the next galaxy. Hey, thank you for watching the history of Stargate Universe. Special thanks to the Stargate fandom page for all information you heard today, and very special thanks to Royalty Free Tube for this fantastic background. Have a great day. Bye-bye.